Hello everybody and welcome to the start of a brand new Let's Play. So this is the game Suzerain. Quick rundown of the game. One, I don't have the DLC, so we're just going to be playing as the base country in this game, which is the Republic of Sordland. We will be the newly elected president, and we are basically, I believe president is the title that they use. But nonetheless, we will be basically trying to navigate a story where obviously there are branching choices and whatnot, depending upon decisions that we make. Those will have actual impacts. My test game sort of ran into a bit of an issue where I can't exactly get any real trade deals because of some decisions I made. I basically pissed off the basically three powers that I could potentially have formed a trade agreement with, which is inevitably going to bite me in the ass, I'm sure, if I ever go back to playing that save. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop in. We'll go into more detail to the game's mechanics and the various countries sort of as we interact with them. I hit the wrong button? Yes, I think I hit the wrong button. Okay, so Republic of Sordland, this is the main story. We are a presidential republic with a population of 37 million. Our economy is in a recession. We are a major power in the region, so we have a fair bit of influence. And start date is 1954. This is, well, we'll get into it more, but this game basically takes place in a fictional Cold War sort of time frame. So we'll be seeing a lot of that Cold War sort of reactions and things like that in it. So Anton Rain has been elected the fourth president of Sordland amidst a deep recession, demands for reform, and external pressures. Let me start my timer. That'd be a good idea, I imagine. You are my enslavement and my freedom. You are my flesh burning like a raw summer night. You are my country. 1908, Kingdom of Sordland. First, we get a little bit of backstory as to our country, or our character, rather. So, 1908, Kingdom of Sordland. You opened your eyes to this world you came from. Well, we can either be a wealthy family in the city of Lockhaven, or Lackhaven, I don't know how it's pronounced. The game does not have pronunciation guides as far as I can tell for a lot of this stuff. A middle-income family in the city of Hull Sword, or an impoverished family in the city of Dare. I think in my test game, I think I did a middle-income family in the city of Hull Sword. So we're going to go with a wealthy family in the city of Lockhaven. Your parents named you Anton. As the only child of a successful businessman, you had the chance to grow up in a wealthy family. Life was easy at first, and you had the best education money could afford. However, things inside the Rain family changed due to the absence of your father. This affected your mother and you negatively. The years passed. It is now 1923. During a history class at school, the bells started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced the historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Sordland was born. This is, of course, the only home you've ever known, which is obviously not strictly true because this is, you know, what is that, like 15 years later? No, not quite. My math is off. This is, nonetheless, this is quite a ways away, obviously. You know, we've known the Kingdom of Sordland because we were born when it was the Kingdom of Sordland. It's not strictly accurate to say that the Republic of Sordland is the only home we've ever known. I'm going to say that we were somewhat worried because we didn't exactly know, you know, who would be in charge and how they would handle things. 1926, September 9th. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. We can choose to study law at Holsworth State University, economics at the Lockhaven Business School, or history at the Dare University of Culture. I think I did economics in my test game, so let's do law at the Holsworth State University. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Wishi. He was a well-known diplomat from the Foreign Ministry and the son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained how the Supreme Court is obstructing justice in Sordland. He stated that laws should be applied fairly and that even the members of the Supreme Court are subject to the same laws. Let's see. Well, we agreed in principle. 1927, May 22nd. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering in protest. Along with your best friend Peter Vectern, you decided to protest with the students. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Lutheran declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back and disperse to your rooms. You joined the students that slowly marched towards the large group of soldiers. Suddenly, the soldiers charged. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. We held our ground. The soldiers beat you relentlessly. It was a gloomy year. The arrested teachers were replaced by those that promoted conformism to the state. Holsword turned a blind eye to things that were happening. You didn't want to stand idle and decided to join... well, I'm thinking the student council. The council was focused on increasing the student involvement in the campus along with partaking in the budget. Through active participation, you gained budget management and leadership skills. In one of the meetings, Peter Vectern introduced you to a classmate of his, Monica. You were immediately attracted to... let's go with her diligence. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swordish League of Women, an organization campaigning for women's rights. You told her you wholeheartedly supported her cause. The politically charged environment led you to, well, we can either join the Red Youth, the Socialists, the Young Swords, the Nationalists, or stay away from any political organization. I'm going to say we're going to choose to stay away from any political organization. The radio relayed that the Communist General Rickard surrounded Lutheran and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Sordland plunged into chaos. The clashes escalated into a full-blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos had to end. The charismatic Colonel Tarkin Sol orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital where the Lutheranist and Ricardit's forces were battling each other. He defeated both, ending the war. A new constitution was written and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the colonel as a savior. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever single-party elections. We voted for the United Sordland Party. USP won the election by a large majority. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military, calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. A devastating civil war broke out in the neighboring country Wayland. Let's see, the Republic of Wayland is a young and fragile republic located in southeast Maricopa. It quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The distinguished Major Isof Lancia ordered you to lead your squad on a border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of Gumran Outpost. You could see your breath. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source, so the squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border fence. You let them slip through. After patrol, Major Lancia arrived with anger and immediately relieved you of your command, calling you a disappointment. One of your squad members had reported your actions. After several months of scrubbing the floors as a punishment, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. You and Monica decided to share your lives together after receiving the blessing of her parents. A ceremony was held in Wholesword. During the same year, you worked hard to secure a high-paying job within the governing United Sordland party. It was much more difficult to start your career on a good foot because of the refugee incident, but you still managed. Let's see. Well, we figured it was the best opportunity to change the country for the better. You became the legal assistant to one of the more experienced members of Assembly. You worked long and hard, going through hundreds of pages of legal documents late into the night. You were climbing the ladder. Tarkin Sol gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the Civil War and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institutions and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a civilian-funded bills program to revitalize the economy, a social labor initiative to help rebuild and improve society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. The first multi-party elections in the history of Sordland were held. President Tarkin Sol was elected once more. The ongoing legal battle between the Justice Ministry and the Supreme Court put you under a lot of stress, but your significant contribution to the legal case triggered an invitation to meet President Tarkin Sol himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of Assembly. We accepted right away. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought on Peter Vectorn as your right-hand man. The birth of your son, Frank, proved a brief moment of joy and relief. You sacrificed work to spend time with your family. During your absence, Peter Vectorn found trustworthy contacts and strengthened your position in the party. At the same time, President Sol increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the USP. The cracks began to show. President Sol barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the next year, the Sordish people grew increasingly discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Economic growth was slowing down. Meanwhile, calls for a united Sordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. You joined the internal opposition. I'm sorry, President Sol, I don't think you're doing a great job anymore. You gave your support to Ewald Afonso, a reformist and talented business magnate who was the main contender for party leadership. Meanwhile, in a desperate effort to secure votes before the Congress, President Sol was meeting party members one by one. But he didn't approach you. The Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Sordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. The voting for the party leadership began. You voted for Ewald Afonso. The efforts bore fruit, as the contentious leadership vote was won by Ewald Afonso. During the Congress, Tarkin Sol announced he would retire from politics at the end of his term and appointed Afonso as vice president. You knew the structure he had established was to stay. The country had become increasingly authoritarian. You were happy that Sol was finally leaving. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Diana. She motivated you during a tumultuous period in the party. As the VP and the leader of the USP, Waldefonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the USP, such as the State Educators Corps and the Swordish State Corporation bills. The general elections were approaching. The United Sordland Party was under new leadership. You joined the party effort and campaigned for him. Because, so far we don't have much of a reason to not support him in any capacity. During the general election, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular figure, Franz Richter, but the damage had been done. The new economic policies and the extensive privatization program proposed by Waldefonso secured an election victory for the United Sordland Party. Over the following years, you did your best in order to make Sordland a better place. The presidency of Afonso saw many bold reforms in government and law and advancements in liberal democratic values. He valued your support throughout. However, due to infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions, and fast-track privatization, it was followed by a severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. We were worried about the economic recession. With Peter's help, your presence in the USP grew. The two of you worked long nights together. He flipped opponents to your side. You became the face of a new wing of the party. Step by step, and with adequate planning, your wing took over the leadership as President Afonso lost control of the country. The moment to make a move had come. You advised Afonso to step down. He listened to your advice. Afonso conceded the leadership struggle, and the party eventually voted you in because of your indisputable influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. You promised to enact democratic reforms. The people are tired of empty promises. We need fundamental change in our institutions and government. The solid and transparent democracy awaits us. Brothers and sisters, a new constitution and a new age is upon us. The broadcast ended. On election day, millions went out to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. Chapter 1, President Reign. Okay, we get to choose our look. I think we'll just kind of stick with the default if I'm completely honest, outside of maybe changing the hair. I kind of like the movie star hair. We'll go with that facial hair. I kind of like that. I think we'll leave the attire at the default because I didn't really like any of the other options all that much. And the background, we'll keep the office because it looks nice. And I think we'll do thin glasses. Yeah, I think that looks nice. Yep, I'm sure. Okay. As Anton Reign, you have made consequential promises to the people of Sordland to gain their votes in the 1953 election campaign. Consider these commitments carefully. What is our economic direction? After the recent market reforms and the recession, the country finds itself stuck between two economic systems with indecision and turbulence, causing the population to demand a direction. So we can either promote a planned economy or a market economy. This is, of course, one of those choices where, in some ways, I feel like there probably should be a third option. You know, You don't technically need to be limited to just these, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, we'll go for market economy. Diplomatic leaning. The global rivalries between capitalist Arcasia in the west, the monarchy of Rumburg to the north, and the communist United Contana in the east are intensifying. Sordland has the potential to align with others or lean towards neutrality. Well, our choices are obviously, yeah, we can lean towards the communists, lean towards the west, or just say, no, we're going to be neutral. We're not going to be involved in this. I'm going to say, especially considering that we literally chose the option for a market economy, we're going to go ahead and actually align towards the west. I feel like that's a bit more beneficial to us than remaining neutral. And it's also not exactly contradictory if we had chosen to align with the east. So let's go ahead and align with the west. This is going to be our diplomatic leaning. Our immigration policy. In the last 5 years, Blutish, Wezek, and Agnolian immigrants flocked to Sordland due to relaxed immigration laws enacted by former President Ewald Afonso. As a result, these tensions are causing requests for a political solution. Again, this is a case where I feel like there probably should be 3 options, because you say toughen, but then it doesn't really quantify exactly how tough we're talking here. And I feel like this is one of those situations where it does result in potentially oh hey, you're going against what you said you were going to do as a policy when it comes to making decisions later on in the campaign. But I guess we'll stick with the toughen immigration laws. And what is going to be our focus for our term? Are we going to focus on education, defense, law enforcement, health, education? Well, we already have those are our options. I feel like the obvious choice in many ways is, at the end of the day, education. Education can pay dividends into all of the other sections. Improve education and you can improve health. Improve education and you can, in theory, improve law and law enforcement. Improve education and you can improve your defense. Part of the thing there being that, hey, maybe we don't have to buy other people's weapons. We can actually design our own, you know, if we have a good education base that we can use. And education has the potential to also benefit the economy as well. So I'm going to say our term focus is going to be on education, and in hopes to sort of get those dividends from improving it. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election, and now I was about to be sworn in as the 4th president of Sordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rain. The die was cast. The die was cast, and there my story began. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. And of course, it has that name because of the exterior walls being painted maroon. And then the Hill of Pride was named during the declaration of the Kingdom of Sordland, when thousands of countrymen started proudly singing the new anthem of Sordland. It is located at the center of Whole Sword, in between the most important government structures, like the Maroon Palace, the Supreme Court, and the Grand National Assembly, and the Ministry of Interior. The Hill of Pride is inside the large Capital Park, which gives the Wholeswordians a chance to relax from the city's stress with free time activities in nature. The hill has great symbolic importance because of the declaration of the kingdom and the republic, which took place on top of it during the last century. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Deanna, were next to Monica, my wife. Her eyes were gleaming with pride. Then I turned towards the key people who made it all possible. Of course, each individual was promised an important position in my government. I saw my previous rival and former president, Ewald Afonso, who gave me a slight nod. Targan Sol was also invited, but as expected, he didn't leave his island retreat. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me, or as though Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. The time for the oath has come. I am ready. And please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sordland, and to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend. And to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Sordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. It is an honor, sir. Let's see. Dear citizens of Sordland. The crowd looked very eager to listen to me. The current dire situation. We are enduring economic hardship like never before, and today our nation is falling apart. Our people, we suffer in this dire situation. Let's see. Our workers are no less productive than a decade ago. Our capable minds are no less inventive. Our products and services no less requested than they were last week, last month, or last year. I promise you we will stop the recession and eliminate poverty. Let's see. Our capacity as a nation has never been greater. Hundreds of thousands cheered. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. Let's wave. I waved to the crowd, which made the people cheer louder. I took a long look at the people of Sordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the presidential guards came by to notify me that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadillac with flags of Sordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. Hello, Mr. President. I still felt euphoric from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you'll allow me to introduce myself, I am Sergey, your new driver. It's nice to meet you, Sergey. It's an honor. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We'll be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Sergey proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. As minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thought again, barely paying attention to what he was saying. He suddenly gestured out the window. Isn't it a beauty, the Maroon Palace? He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright that I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. So do I, Sergey. It is the beating heart of the nation, after all. Well said, Mr. President. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Sergey got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. Amorga Westcor. He referred to the famous Swordish phrase from the time of revolution. Amorgna Westcor Vectern Sista, which meant morning will come, victory is close. Well, obviously, if he's gonna quote part of it to us, we should quote the other part to it back to him. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed with their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. Okay, and we are started. We have a bunch of stuff to take a look at, but first things first, let's take a look at the news. So the Pulsar Post is talking about, well, we emphasized our dire situation, spoke about the current dire situation, bringing focus on the suffering of Swordish people. We are enduring economic hardship like never before. Today our nation is falling apart, said the new president before he went on to start his first day in the Maroon Palace. The long-stalled campaign bill has once again taken center stage in the Grand National Assembly. The bill, first proposed during the Alfonso presidency, has been put on hold due to the 1953 election, but has now been resurrected under President Anton reign. The proposed amendments ensure a more proportional allocation of public funds, more accurately reflecting a party's influence within the legislative body. Sordland Today, what do they have to say about me? Let's see, another great win for the USP. And Anton reign, who managed to get 37% of the general vote. The first congratulations came from Nasaro Kibnir of the National Front Party, which finished third in the electoral race and entered the assembly. The runner-up of the general vote, the PFJP, didn't concede until the last minute, but the results were clear since several hours in. Thousands of supporters have gathered in the streets of Lackhaven, chanting campaign slogans, waving flags, and displaying USB party banners to display unwavering support to the newly elected president. The public mood is very positive in the city from all accounts on the ground. The city is celebrating that Lackhaven has become the president of Sordland. See, The Economist. Let's see, restructuring the infrastructure under the recent successful mega infrastructure projects from United Cantana and Volksland. The world is warming up to the idea as a source of growth and employment, but is there any truth to this success? Our investment analysis indicates that infrastructure investments can be fruitful in the short term, but even more so in the long term, especially if they focus on linking economic nodes that business logistics depend on. This is, however, the first step. The crux of the matter is diversification of investment, where the government supports employment and growth. It is key to help private businesses. With government contracts, tax breaks, and political support in order to create a self-sufficient and dynamic economy. The government's role in Sordland should be to integrate to the world economy and reap the benefits of global trade, economic growth, and income inequality in this country won't be fixed otherwise. What is the other thing you gotta say? End to Solonomics. Let's see, he's released a comprehensive report on the performance of the past 20 years. A certain section of the report stands out. The last 2 4-year plans of the planned doctrine created a budget deficit and a clear reduction of the industrial production output. This was specifically due to mismanagement and inefficient bureaucracy. The year-on-year growth budget balance and production index values indicate that the 2 most productive consecutive years had been when the privatization program of Alfonso began in 1949. Let's see. Okay. So, basically advising that we, in many ways, sort of continue with Alfonso's program, in a sense. Let's see, the Lackhaven Times. What do they got to say? We've been elected 4th president, won the election with just over 37% of the vote. Let's see. Well, Franz Richter, leader of the People's Freedom and Justice Party, gained just over 20%. Gasaro Kibnir, the head of the right-wing National Front Party, is in 3rd place with just over 11%. The Communist Party of Sordland and the Workers' Party of Bludia both won just below 10% of the vote, failing to pass the 10% election threshold. The new term begins with the opposition of PFJP and NFP under the USP government. The unrepresented votes below the threshold resulted in the USP taking 52% of the seats in the Grand National Assembly, giving them the lawmaking power. The new seat numbers have been finalized as follows: 130 USP, 70 PFJP, 40 NFP, and independents 10. Who the hell are the independents? Okay. I mean, I'm really kind of a bit confused as to who exactly the independents are supposed to be. Is this just supposed to be, the people who didn't make the threshold? Because, I mean, that would make sense in some ways, but also, why would we not be able to break it down They may not technically be their party because they didn't quite make the threshold, but I feel like referring to them as independents is also a little bit inaccurate. Radical. This is so all of these have their own sort of views. Radical, I believe, is basically a much more left-wing paper. I think Geopolitico, I don't recall exactly which one is which. One of these is also a more right-wing sort of one. I just don't recall off the top of my head which is which. But I believe Radical is generally a sort of more left-wing paper in the game here. So they're gonna, you know, if we do stuff to basically that it makes the Communist Party happy, this paper will generally be praising us. Although maybe not necessarily always fully, because they're not necessarily a communist paper per se. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom out to the regional map because we have stuff to look at out here. So the Arcasian Treaty Organization, aka this game's version of NATO, let's see, they are advocating for global human rights amid tensions. In response to growing global tensions, the Arcasian Treaty Organization, an intergovernmental military and economic alliance of 14 countries, led primarily by Arcasia, has issued an expansive report examining the state of human rights worldwide amid intensifying nuclear developments and efforts to counteract the expanding influence of the Continental Security Pact, this game's version of the Warsaw Pact. The ATO's commitment to championing human rights remains unwavering. The report meticulously identifies regions worldwide where human rights are mostly endangered, shedding light on areas of concern in multiple continents, including Eastern Marcopa, Western Rica, and Southern Contana. Proposed strategies underline the need for actionable, collaborative efforts to address these crises, championing an international focus on basic human rights and freedom. As the specter of potential tensions and proxy wars looms, the report calls for nations to remember that the fight for universal respect for human dignity transcends political and ideological divisions. Let's see. The Republic of Agnola. Let's take a quick look at them. We have friendly relations. They're a member of OMEC. The Organization for Marcopan Economic Development is an intergovernmental economic organization to stimulate economic progress and increase trade in Marcopa. They are not necessarily this game's version of OPEC. Cheap steel imports, as per the trade agreement between the two countries. Sordland imports Agnolian steel for cheaper than its market value, which is something they're not a big fan of. They are a member of the Alliance of Nations. This is this game's version, basically, of the UN. Because at this point it would be the UN. So friendly relations, they have a weak military. They have a population of 11 million. They rank 18th on the world GDP. Their capital is Stalport. Their official language is Agnolian. And their leader is PM Martin van Horten. And he is congratulating us. Prime Minister Van Horten, Jesus, I cannot speak. Congratulated us on our election and praised our party's stance on just and transparent elections. He signaled his wishes to continue the trade partnership between our countries as equal partners, as opposed to earlier trade deals which he believes gave Sordland unfair advantages. We have also received congratulations from Chancellor Hegel of the Democratic Republic of Volksland. They are a member of the CSP. They are also a member of OMEC and a member of the AN. We have neutral relations. They have a much stronger military. Well, they have a stronger military than us. Not necessarily much stronger, but it is stronger. Population of 63 million, so they also have like double our population. They rank 6th on the GDP on the world. They are a socialist republic. Capital is Halim, and their official language are Volgrish. Galmish, and Old Valgish. Their motto is, I guess, through broken shackles. What was yours? Freedom or peril? Okay, that's a fairly basic one, I guess, technically. But okay, yep, they congratulate us. Wish for closer cooperation between our countries. Signaled concessions from Volgland in case of a promising trade agreement. He also congratulated the Sordish democracy for the successful elections and warned us about the threat Arcasia's growing influence poses for Eastern Marcopa. Let's see, we have the Republic of Wayland here. People, Justice, Unity. Member of OMEC and the AN. Neutral relations, they have a weaker military than us. 17 million people, ranked 29th. President is President Victor Smolak, or maybe Victor Smolak. I guess it depends on if the W is supposed to be pronounced as if it's a V. They are a presidential republic. Their capital is, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, and the official language is Wezek. And they're also congratulating us. Congratulations on our election victory and wish for a cooperative future between them and Sordland, signaling a desire to normalize the diplomatic situation between the two countries. Makes it sound like we're not exactly on the greatest terms, but you literally said the relations are neutral. I'd consider those fairly normalized. The Republic of Lispia. Fortune, Strength, Liberty. They are a member of the ATO, member of OMEC and the AN. Neutral, strong, 79 million, rank 5th, PM. So they have Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez, Parliamentary Republic. Capital is Perla, and the official language is Lesbian. Hopes to have a beneficial partnership deal in the future. Send his best wishes to the Sordish people and warned us about the threats of the encroaching Malinivist influence of United Cantana from the east, emphasizing the importance of unity in our continent, Marcopa. This is this game's version of communism. I mean, they do actually literally refer to it as is the communist theory as advocated as blah blah blah. But yeah, it's supposed to be, you know, this game's version of just communists. So Malavinas, the communist theory, is advocated by Kantanan revolutionary Leon, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, more commonly known through his nickname Malyenev. Malyenev developed it as a variant of Carlos Marcia's theory of Marcian socioeconomics. He supported founding a vanguard party of the proletariat, proletarian internationalism, and a dictatorship of the proletariat based on working class self-emancipation, or emancipation, not emanciation, and mass democracy. Malyavinists are critical to the theory of socialism in one country in favor of Malyanev's theory of permanent revolution. Malyanev argues for a need to give support for social revolution in the advanced capitalist countries through working class mass action and support for internationalism. Malyanevists' industrialization officially designed to accelerate the development towards communism, stressing the need for such rapid industrialization on the grounds that the United Cantana was previously economically behind in comparison to Western countries, and asserted that a socialist society needed industry in order to face the challenges posed by internal and external enemies of communism. It is currently one of the most popular theories of Marcian socioeconomics, being followed by a number of nations around the globe. It is also responsible for causing socialist revolutions in farther countries like Volksland during the Century of Revolutions. Yeah, this would... Okay. Yep, let's go ahead and hop back to the national map. We got some stuff to look at out here. So, low production in Agland. The report calls attention to the alarmingly low levels of productivity growth in the region of Angland, where there are also high rates of food insecurity, malnutrition, and rural poverty in inner parts of the region. Lack of investment in Arvory. The mayor of Arvory, Eric Neal, reports a lack of adequate infrastructure around Arvory, which seriously undermines the attractiveness of Arvory's investment climate. Foreign investors, particularly from Magnolia, are becoming hesitant to invest in the city. Meanwhile, according to data published by the National Business Council, around 19% of a company's total expenditures in England is absorbed by logistics costs, while in peer regions this figure is below 10%. Oh, well, that doesn't sound great. The port of Lockhaven loses its importance. The latest marine traffic reports show that the port of Lockhaven is no longer the busiest of the Morcopa continent, falling behind to the third position. While this is a negative indicator for our administration, Lockhaven still has the potential to shine again as a major trading center. The port of Lockhaven is the largest port of Sordland and holds enormous importance for the economy, particularly as the main distribution center linking the capital and inner parts of Sordland to the rest of the world. The major port city will hopefully keep supporting a possible economic upturn in the entire country if investment projects succeed. Okay, that looks to be all of the events right now, so let's go ahead and do this one here. Well, let's first read about these logistical issues. In a recent update from Hulsard, the mayor expressed growing concern about escalating traffic congestion linked to the city's burgeoning population and rapid urban expansion. A logistics report pinpointed the significant increase in traffic volume and subsequent slowing of transportation routes as the capital's most pressing issues. The mayor stressed that the lack of a comprehensively designed large-scale land-based logistics hub serving as the converging point for all transporters is exacerbating the issues faced by domestic transporters. Given Hulsard's status as a sprawling metropolis, the current situation, where transporters have established separate centers across 10 different districts, is scattered and inefficient. I think we'll go ahead and end this part here, and then we'll jump into, well, I guess we can read this report as well. General Staff gathers. The General Staff convened right after the election to congratulate our victory. All branches of the Swordish Armed Forces were represented in the meeting that took place at Camp Strongarm. With massive security measures, the Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger, made a public press statement highlighting the increasing chances of military confrontation in eastern Morcopa and requested support to strengthen the military. That sounds reasonable. I'm going to go ahead and end this part here. I will see you all next time, where we will go ahead and actually start making decisions that have an impact. Until then, goodbye and farewell.